All right, this is Joe News. Let's take you to the presidency now because the Minister of State in charge of government communication, Felix Ofosu Kwakye, is addressing the nation on the happenings currently in the country. Let's take you to the presidency now.
And someone, in your view, violates your right of passage or your right of way on the road, then you engage in a heated argument and a person assaults you. It can be reported that a journalist has been assaulted. Can it not? But would it be fair to say that because you have been assaulted over a disagreement with another member of the public, then journalists are under threat in Ghana and that they have been? I don't think that it is fair. The specific instances relate to reportage on Galamsey. Illegal miners by nature are people acting lawlessly, and government has been at pains to stress its commitment to addressing that difficulty. So if going to report that results in a situation where some of those illegal miners attack you, these are not state actors. They are not state actors. Even in instances where a state actor assaults a journalist, you need to determine whether he was acting as part of a design by government to silence criticism, or he was just overzealous and acted on his own. So we need to delineate the issues and understand what has happened. But if you lump everything together and heap blame at the doorstep of government, it creates a misleading narrative, which is not right. That is why we have requested for the meeting with the Ghana Journalists Association to dialogue over this matter. But as for the general commitment to protecting every Ghanaian citizen, including journalists, government remains steadfast in that position. So we will be demanding an update on where things are in terms of the investigation. But we needed to clarify that these people have not acted on the say-so of government.
Finally, from me, this may not necessarily be on the three topics that you raised this morning, but on the 10th of January 2025, the President, through his secretary, wrote to the IGP to request for immediate investigation into the death of 8 Ghanaians during the 2020 and 2024 general elections. What is the status of that request the President made of the IGP, and what's the way forward regarding that?
Well, we are yet to receive a report in that regard. Once we receive it, we will make it known to the public. Or better still, I can make some inquiry about where things are and update you on it. But it only underscores the commitment of this government to ensure that such matters are dealt with and justice is sought every time that these things occur.
So I just wanted to just get clarity on this because we were talking about journalists.
Sure.
The NCA has revoked their licenses or has disconnected some radio stations, and one particular radio station in Boko, the reason is that they're inciting violence and for security threats. Do we get some evidence? Because I'm picking on social media, people asking where the evidence is.
That is a matter that the Minister for Communications and the NCA would have to address. So subsequently, they will engage the public to shed light on the reasons informing the action. But as for regulatory action, it is something that we need to support. What it is that if stations are targeted because of their political leanings and views, then there's a difficulty. But if there's a general violation of the principles and rules and ethics governing the practice of media and broadcasting, it is the duty of regulators to step in and ensure that people are complying with Ghanaian law. So that general principle must be laid. I know that in the past, when some radio stations were closed, we criticized it severely. And we did so because the reasons that they gave clearly were unconvincing, they were untenable, and it was obvious that they were targeting those radio stations because of their political, perceived political leanings or views. But I don't believe that is what has happened in this case. But as I said, I would encourage the NCA and the Ministry of Communication to engage the public to explain the reasons behind why this action has been taken. I know that a statement has been issued by the Minister of Communications announcing and shedding some light on this, but perhaps more needs to be done going forward to drive home the reasons for this. But I certainly can rule out political motivation or considerations other than pure regulatory violations. And President Mahama, as I've indicated, is not one going to target people because of what they believe in. His record is clear. And I believe that those of you in the media can attest to it more than any group of people. Yes.
Okay, we have seen a petition making rounds signed by the minority leader, Afenyo King, addressed to the president, essentially asking him to reverse the revocation of the public sector appointments. First of all, has your office received this petition? And secondly, what would be your response to his plea that this is in contravention to the 1992 Constitution, the appointment, and asking you to reverse it?
Well, first of all, I'm not aware that any such petition has been received, but we can always verify. These are matters of record, which we can always find out. But in terms of the substance of the petition, I think we've explained this, that when the transition process began, we noticed these speedy, hurriedly arranged, often highly irregular recruitments into various public agencies. We raised the issue. Indeed, on the very first day of the joint transition meeting, we raised the issue. And you recall that after the meeting, I addressed the media and pointed out that we have this serious concern about the manner in which these appointments are being done. We had asked for some dialogue and engagement between our side and the outgoing government side to have an understanding of what exactly is happening. We also thought that because a new government was coming in, it was important that certain decisions are reserved for them to take. Whilst it is true that the tenure of the previous government ended on 6th January, it is also true that it was the incoming government that was going to bear the brunt in terms of remuneration and finding the money to pay these people. So surely they must have a say in how this is done. We requested for meetings, we requested for explanations. We said that they should at least hold on pending some consultation on the matter. They rebuffed it and said that they had the power to do so. And you recall that on 17 December 2024, I issued a statement on behalf of the NDC side of the transition team and indicated that given the frustration we had faced from government and its unwillingness to engage on the matter, and our knowledge of the irregularities that afflict the recruitments going on, we were going to be left with no option than to reverse those decisions pending further inquiry and any other actions that may be taken going forward. So it's not like this has come as a surprise to anybody. We were very clear on our position on the matter. And there is precedent. The NPP took a similar position in the past. You recall that when they came to power, some nurses whose recruitment had begun long before the elections, their recruitments were put on hold for several months, if not a year or so. And it was because the NPP took the position that an incoming administration must have significant say in any actions that have fiscal implication for the incoming government. We also spoke about some payments that were being made and how they needed to stop so that we'll be able to have a handle on things when we take over power. So, yes.
The petition, and you are not going to.
I have not said that. I personally am not aware whether we have received, but I can find out. It's not something that should be difficult to do. But even if it has been received, the matters are very clear. And I don't think that a decision like that is taken merely because a letter has been written. There are ways in which the matters are addressed. It needs to be placed on record that the government of Ghana, the one led by President Mahama, has no difficulty with any specific individual. It doesn't matter whether you are MPP or NDC. And we believe that MPP members, just like NDC members or any other group of Ghanaians, deserve the same opportunities to serve once there are vacancies in the public and civil service. But there must be fairness in the way that this is done. The way that the recruitments were done showed clearly that there was a certain effort to railroad party supporters into the civil and public service just because elections had been conducted, the MPP had lost, and they were leaving. That was done in a manner that was unfair to others who did not belong to the MPP. And let me also put it on record that this action has been taken not because of a perception or a belief that they were MPP. It is because we know that the recruitment processes were attended by irregularities. In some instances, there were people who were giving backdated letters to create the impression that they had long been employed before the elections, when that was not the case. There were some who did not go through interview. There were some who did not even submit an application letter expressing interest in the position. These are clear irregularities that cannot be allowed to stand. In due course, government will do recruitment, and it will be open to all Ghanaians, irrespective of political coloration. Indeed, your party identity will not be required. You will not be asked to show whether you're NPP or NDC when that comes. But we will do it in a regular manner. So even those who have had their employment revoked will still have opportunity to reapply and go through due process to be employed in the public and civil service.
The Ghanaians are concerned about when you're going to finally make the appointment of the 4 more cabinet ministers. That's the deputy ministers. Do you have an update on that?
Well, I mean, the president has set up his government in record time. So in the coming days, the remaining 4 deputy ministers will be made known to the people of Ghana. And once that happens, we'll be more than happy to share the information with you.
All right. There's a petition that was sent about 2 weeks ago seeking the removal of the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. Has that gotten to the desk of the president? And
again, I would have to find out if such a petition has been received. If it has been received, due process will be used to assess it and ascertain whether or not it is something that has to be acted on.
Okay. So there are concerns that the seeming entrenched position taken by CLOCSAG could lead to a full-blown strike. I'm curious to find out if government has made any overtures to CLOCSAG in an attempt to negotiate and agree with them that, okay, although this is the claim you're making, and you also insisting that this appointment was made in accordance with the law, would you find a middle ground so that they don't go on strike?
Max, I can confirm that at the very highest levels of government, there has been engagement between CLOCSAG and government. And as I indicated, CLOCSAG says that a certain action should be taken. But government has to act on the basis of law. So we inquired as to what the premise for that demand is. If you are saying that a position should go to a civil servant, show us the basis for that position. They have been unable to show it. I have showed you the law and specific provisions, and you would all agree with me. Even if you have doubts about what I'm reading, you can dig up the law yourselves and read for yourself. Read section 2 of Act 1027, the Registration of Births and Deaths Act, and satisfy yourself as to who has the authority to make the appointment. And second, whether or not the law says anywhere that the position of the Registrar of the Births and Deaths Registry should be held by a civil servant. These, for me, are the issues at play. And to the extent that government has acted lawfully, regularly, and in accordance with the Constitution, I don't see why there should be an entrenched position on the matter. We certainly have not taken an entrenched position. We cannot act illegally simply because a section of our population, in this instance, Ghanaian workers, demand that we do. I don't think that it is fair to the people of Ghana, whose taxes are used to pay civil servants, those who work in CLOCSAG, just like myself, the president, or everybody else who works within the public and civil service. You cannot take such a position, which is unfair to them, when the facts are very clear, the laws are very, very clear. If it was the case that government was violating the law, then you would have a basis. As I said, I'm aware that they went to court under the previous government. There's yet to be a determination on the matter. So if the matter has not been determined, there's no judicial pronouncement saying that the position of the law is wrong or what the president has done is wrong. I don't see why entrenched positions should be taken. I don't see why a nationwide strike should be declared on a matter like this. I'll take the final question and then we can call it a day. Yes. Okay, the last 2 questions. So
okay.
Your hand went up.
Thank you very much.
Okay, no problem. Yeah.
Is it the contention of government that all those people who were employed, let me say all those Ghanaians who were employed after December 7 did not qualify? Or is government going to do a thorough investigation or assess the method of appointment to ensure that those who duly met all the requirements are retained and those who were railroaded into the system are removed?
Yes, we are aware that there were significant irregularities. And indeed, it is important to stress that we started making this position known long before we took over power. At least a month before we came into power, we made a position known. We sought clarification from government at the time. We sought audience. We sought some dialogue on this matter. Those overtures were rebuffed. And we are aware that there were significant irregularities. So yes, there will be an investigation to confirm the position that we have. And as and when it is determined that there were people who went through due process, we will have no difficulty having them in the civil service. And as I said again, this has not been done on the basis of anybody's political affiliation. In fact, we don't even know who is MPP and who is NDC, because I don't think that the party card is determined. There can be legitimate suspicion because of the way, the speed, and indecent haste with which these recruitments were done, that perhaps there were some political considerations. But that is not the focus. The focus is on regularity and lawful discharge of responsibility, which we believe, in this case, was not adhered to.
Please, I want to find out on energy. I want to find out what is causing the power outages and what is the timeline for resolving the issue.
Well, I think that the energy ministry would be best placed to explain what's happening. As far as we know, government's obligations in terms of providing fuel has been met, and therefore we should not have such difficulty. But I'm sure that the Ministry of Energy will be more than willing to shed light on exactly what is happening.
Can I know the reason why Honorable Edward Bauer was reshuffled?
Well, you recall that he was made acting Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. Acting. Acting simply means that you are holding a fort pending a final determination of who should hold the position. So one of two things can happen. You can be confirmed as substantive CEO, or another person can be appointed. Mr. Edward Bauer is a highly knowledgeable individual in the energy sector of Ghana, and he has demonstrated his competence over the period. So the president believed that in the immediate aftermath of the change in government, he should act at GMPC. Subsequently, the president determined that his expertise and knowledge would help significantly in the area of the downstream sector. So he thought that he should go to GOIL so that he brings his considerable knowledge and expertise to bear on the operations of that entity. And then he subsequently appointed someone to GMPC. So it was just part of a restructuring of the energy sector to achieve optimal results going forward. All right. Thank you very much for coming.